Changing us today. I got it, guys. Hey, every one of you is here for a reason, for a purpose. All right? You're not here by accident. We wanted you here. We brought you here. You have a gift. Bring that gift to the table today, man. Bring it to the table. We talked all week about finishing. Finish every block. Finish every tackle. Finish every play. And finish the damn game. Let's go. Let's go. Vikings on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Freebeats.io. Get this beat untagged for free at freebeats.io. Freebeats.io.
We're building full of dream chasers in here. You want to come join us?
All right, everybody, welcome in to Load the Box. I am Dream Chaser Jordan, joined by Dream Chaser Will. Will, what you didn't get to hear as we were discussing pre-show, I actually updated the show's little, theme song thing with a new beat and a couple, quips here and there. It's not exactly set in stone, but I just wanted to change it up because the old one had Mike Zimmer in it. But the last quote that you hear is just, it's Kwesi saying, "I'm building a building full of dream chasers. You want to come join us?" And then the people get to see our beautiful faces. So, as always, just going to start it off. Will, how was your week since last week? How'd you enjoy the Vikings game this week? I'm assuming not with leftover birthday cake.
Yeah, it was a good week. I think I mentioned this last week. I spent some time out at Vikings training camp at TCO Performance Center with the Vikings and the Niners on Wednesday and Thursday of last week, which was a blast. Quite frankly, I think I learned more in those two practices than I did in the preseason game, and we can get into that. But yeah, we'll get into the Niners game on Saturday night at the bank. It was underwhelming in many ways, to say the least, and revealing in other ways. So all in that, it was a pretty good week. I was able to take some time off, enjoy some football, some time with my family and my kids. So all in all, it was good. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty similar. I actually spent the weekend down in Nashville, so I watched the game condensed on my tablet while my wife watched some Law and Order SVU, and she didn't like the sound, so I had to tone it down. But then it's also, I think, the only game I'm gonna be able to see with Paul Allen calling it.
Sure.
So I was like, I had to have it up a little bit because I love getting the Paul Allen call for the games, and I don't get that living in Ohio at all. So I just get to hear his voice in interviews and whatnot. But I think I said I was in Nashville over the weekend. Good times down there, of course, and everybody got home safe and sound, and that's really all you can ask for. Let's jump into some topics, because I feel like last week we found ourselves sprinting through some of these topics that we had, and I don't want to get into that situation tonight. So I'm going to kick it off I'm going to let you kick it off, I guess I should say. I'm going to defer to the second half. Let's talk about the big news. Nick Mullins, officially a Minnesota Viking for a conditional 7th-round draft pick in next year's draft, which is the 2021 NFL draft. What did you think of the move? Were you shocked at all by that? Is Nick Mullins a guy you wanted to see the Vikings pursue, or would you rather us have went after and spent a little bit more, maybe on a higher end backup, like a Gardner Minshew or something like that, maybe even a Case Keenum if you really wanted to mix it up?
It's a really good question. I think the Case Keenum one is an interesting comparison because if I remember right, I believe all the Bills gave up was a 7th-round pick for Keenum this offseason. I might be off. It might have been a 6th-round pick, but it wasn't much. So that was actually something that, that level of play the Vikings potentially could have went after. So your original question was whether or not he was one that I was, hoping the Vikings would go after. The QB that I was actually thinking the Vikings should target was Mason Rudolph of the Steelers. I thought that would have been an interesting move. Funny enough, I was actually getting ready to write a piece for VikingsTerritory.com kind of on that idea of here's what the Vikings should do to go after Mason Rudolph, and then minutes later Nick Mullins gets traded and that whole idea was just kapoof. That being said, I think the Nick Mullins move I think it's good. Honestly, for backups, I'm not a big believer in spending a ton. Unless you're in a position, let's just say Cousins gets injured week 3 and is out for the entire season. In that situation, you might go get someone like Jimmy Garoppolo and spend a little more money because you want to get someone who has more of a legitimate chance to help you be contenders. But the Nick Mullins trade, honestly, I think is exactly what the Vikings needed to do. He's kind of on that Mason Rudolph line of talent level, and we gave up hardly anything. So we're really not losing much. It's well down in the future, 2 years from now. And the thing that I always come back to with backup quarterbacks is these aren't guys who you're going to be asking to carry a team to, keep them in contention over 6 to 8 weeks. And if you are, then you're probably out of the playoff picture anyways, unless your roster is absolutely loaded and you can ride Case Keenum to the NFC Championship game.
Right.
In this case, Nick Mullins is coming in simply to be a security blanket for if Cousins has to miss a game or 3, where he can keep us afloat, win us maybe 1 to 2 games in sort of a emergency role, and then just keep the team afloat, keep the team going. Which is, after watching Mond and Mannion, I don't think they were going to be able to do that. And so this is the perfect move for a backup quarterback in my mind. I think we executed it about as good as you can do, giving up practically nothing. So that's where I sit. I also am a believer that, backup quarterback is important, but it's, like I said before, not the most important thing on the team. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, though. You were pretty excited when you texted me the other day.
I'm still very excited. I know that we've just started this duo of Load the Box, and you'll quickly learn anything that makes me think of the Vikings playing with someone else at quarterback other than Kirk Cousins makes me insanely excited. I'm not the biggest Cousins guy. I do think he's our best chance to win this year. I'm okay with the extensions and blah 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 whatever. But just to talk about Nick Mullins, to the same point that you made, I'm of the opinion, and I think I said this last week, and I'll reiterate it quickly. You want your backup to go 500 over a month, and that's really all you want. You want them to be able to sneak out 2 games. Maybe you get lucky, and one of those games is against the Lions, and the other one's against a team like Houston. You know what I mean? You want to get lucky, win 2 games, and then your guy comes back. And if Cousins misses 12 games, the season is over. I think we can all accept that. I don't think there's going to be any Case Keenum miracle stories of the championship game and oh my gosh, look at how good this team is, because I don't think that this roster is at that point. I expect to see good things from the defense, and we'll talk about them a little later, but I don't think they will be as good as that 2017 defense was. So Nick Mullins coming in, I think he does give the Vikings the best chance to be able to win 2 games if he has to stout 2, 3, 4 games. And like you said, I watched that game, and I had heard and seen on Twitter and listening to other podcasts and whatnot, a lot of Mond and Mannion slander, and I was like, there's no way it was that bad, right? Like, there's no, like, it's probably the same as the Vegas game, and people are just upset he didn't up his game to be somewhere. No, it was that bad. I mean, it really was. And like, I got excited watching it because, you know, Mon made a good couple of throws, his first, I think, 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden it was just, both of them looked so bad. I do want to take one quick second to throw over to the YouTube chat. Jeff Hawthorne is in the chat saying it's a great pickup, and also that he thinks Mond is going to be, a casualty of this. And I think that Mond is probably going to try. I think we're going to try and stash him on the practice squad if we don't just keep 3 quarterbacks like we did last year. But I don't think Mon will make it to a practice squad. I think somebody will pick him up just because, you know, he does have experience and he is kind of that kind of a guy. What's your opinion? What do you think happens with Mon now that I think Nick Mullins is QB2? I think that's established. As soon as they sent draft capital, that's what it is. What do you think of Mon? What do you think Mon's future is?
Yeah, I think once Mullins learns the flashcards, I think he's QB2 before he maybe even throws a pass in practice. I think we're about at that point. He was a serviceable backup in San Francisco for years. He kept that team afloat when Garoppolo went down. So I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. If I'm the GM tomorrow, cut Mannion probably next week. I think I'd be just shocked to see him make the roster. I'd also be very surprised if he was even stashed on the practice squad, because thinking of what the practice squad can do for you, it's the emergency situation if you have a quarterback injury and you need to have 2 guys on the roster for game day. I think Mond has generally been better this preseason. Yes, he's had 2 interceptions, but I think he gives you a better chance to win a game. I think Mannion he's too flat to be able to give you enough to win an actual game. So I think Mannion's going to be cut. I think the other thing with the practice squad that's interesting that I would like to see the Vikings do to keep Mannion, or I'd like to see the Vikings keep Mannion, is that often you use the practice squad guy to try and emulate the opposing quarterback. And Vikings play Kyler Murray this year. And I can guarantee you that Sean Mannion cannot emulate Kyler Murray. Kellen Mond can do a little better of an impersonation. He can do a little better of a Josh Allen impersonation. Heck, he can even do a better Aaron Rodgers impersonation. So I think for all those reasons, I think Mond needs to be trying stashed on the practice squad. Just given all the other, roster crunches the Vikings have going on, I don't think they'll keep 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. So
is Mannion still in? I know there's like a window. Like, you can't practice squad a guy who's been in the league for so many years, and I think Mannion might be out of that window. I don't even, I think it is 53 man, it's cut for Mannion. Oh, no one's trading for Sean Mannion. I'm not even going to say that, but.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure about that rule. That'd be something interesting to look up. But
I think it's 8 seasons. I think you have 8 seasons, but don't hold me to that.
Yeah. So I want to come back to something interesting you said at the beginning of your little rant, is that you said you're excited for anybody other than Kirk Cousins to be quarterback. So are you saying you want Nick Mullins to start week 1?
No, not at all. So what I'm saying, and that's not me saying that I want to see Cousins injured by any means. I've kind of at this point accepted that if I just hate on Cousins and he does good, my team does good. And if I hate on Cousins and he does bad, I'm correct. It's kind of a win-win for me here. So I'm happy in this spot that I'm in. I just don't think, I don't know. I'm sure we'll talk about this because at some point this season he'll have a bad game and I'll say, have you seen these 3 quarterbacks? Do you want to talk about them maybe just like as a little bit of like a special episode or something? And that's kind of been tradition on the show in recent years. We do a QB look ahead for the draft, and I was really early on Joe Burrow. We were super early on Zach Wilson. Last year, my guy was Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky, and he's a New England Patriot now. But I do think that Cousins gives us the best chance to win. But if Nick Mullins does have to play, I think the two guys we're going to talk about now are going to play a big part in making sure Nick Mullins can win us games. And we'll start with Andrew Booth. I'm just going to quickly scroll up in our text chain here to try and find my takeaways. I think, I said Andrew Booth is physical and rude because I was watching him play and he was just, it's unnecessary almost. And I'm not saying like he's unnecessary, like get 15 yards thrown on him every play unnecessary. I just mean like he drags a guy out of bounds and then throws him. Like he's physical. And I think I made the analogy last week about Cameron Dantzler is a needle and Andrew Booth Jr. is a branch. And I watched that game and that was the big thing that stood out to me was just how physical Andrew Booth Jr. really plays. And I feel like you sort of toned me on to it last week. You were like, it kind of put in my head, watch for Andrew Booth to do something. And my God, he's an angry person. I mean, and I love that style of player. I love, and hopefully he can back up the aggressive play and the trash talk that he's known for. I know he kind of injured his ankle. O'Connell mentioned something in a press conference, I think yesterday, about that, and about how, he should be ready to go for week 1 against Green Bay, and hopefully everything gets good. Do you trust O'Connell after he said Irv Smith, it's nothing serious, he's going to be back week 1, and Irv Smith will return to the practice field this week? Are you a little bit more skeptical with the Andrew Booth injury?
Skeptical about it. I think it seems to me that O'Connell seems to be a straight shooter with these things. And all the reports that we've heard on Irv Smith, for example, is that he's progressing either on schedule or ahead of schedule. So I think, based on the comments that O'Connell has made, it looks like both those guys will be ready for week 1. So until O'Connell proves me wrong that he is, fluffing some of these target dates and being a little soft with his assumptions, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Also back to my my theory about him and how, generally speaking, from the Rams' philosophy, he's going to be more cautious, and so I don't see him as one being overly aggressive, saying, oh, by the way, this player will be ready by week 1, and in fact he's not ready until week 4 or something. Yeah. So I'm kind of tending to believe, his targets for these dates, and so far so good with both these guys. What's your feeling on Booth? Given he's got an extensive injury history. It's the reason why he's fell to the second round. Everyone thinks this injury that he had in the game on Saturday is said to be a re-aggravation of an existing or a previous injury. So kind of what's your general sort of feel and level of concern with him before we've even played a snap?
It's high. I think I like his play a lot, and I liked him a lot coming out of Clemson this season. But those injury concerns, they're a real thing, and I think you have that with a lot of guys that come out in the draft, where you say when he is on the field, he's a dog. I mean, he's something special. The issue is the best ability is availability, and I don't want to preemptively say bust, and I don't think those were anywhere close to that. I think that maybe he re-aggravated an ankle injury, and it's the preseason, and if we were going into the NFC title game, he's on the field, no question, versus it's the preseason and the quarterbacks haven't been playing well. Let's just wrap it up and call it. So I'm cautiously concerned. I'm not diving headfirst into the, oh my God, the season's over because Andrew Booth's ankle hurts. I am, however, I'm watching very closely with intent. Go ahead. What do you think?
Oh, I was actually just gonna, flip to the other side of the field. Absolutely. Or the proverbial other side of the field with a Caleb Evans and, his potential replacement, right? If Booth is is out for week 1 or even, an extensive amount of time, Evans is probably going to see the field a little more. There are some out there who think that he even deserves a leg up on Booth after these first couple preseason games. So there's gonna be more eyes locked on number 21 and his purple hair and his
Absolutely.
his his social media extravagance. And I think it'd be okay. I'm okay with him seeing more of the field. I think Dantzler and him. I think both of them have a lot to prove still. I think Evans still. I'm not quite there yet on him. I think he has a lot of upside. I saw a lot from him in the run game on Saturday, which was super encouraging. He's not like Booth in that, Booth is just like he's a tank. He's built. He's got a big upper body and broad shoulders. Evans isn't quite Cam Dantzler skinny, but he's a little more slender. But he stuck his hat in there and he made a bunch of plays in the run game. He had a tackle for loss on a 4th down that turned the ball over. So he made a lot of positive impact plays there. I wasn't overly thrilled with his coverage. I thought he was maybe a little soft and gave up too many chunk plays, especially on 3rd downs in the second half. So I think there's a ways to go for him still, but again, he hasn't played a official NFL snap yet and all that. But the problem with the NFL and the problem with the Vikings schedule is that it's going to be baptism by fire. In week 1, you have to go up against Aaron Rodgers. So he's going to have to be ready, especially if Booth isn't ready to suit up and play that week. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think that, and this is a very stupid joke, and I know it's stupid before I even say it, but just indulge me. Someone should open a Vikings-themed restaurant and make the cup sizes like Danslow, Evans, and Booth, and like small meat, because it really is like that's kind of the builds is like that, and that's just how my brain works, is in very simplistic terms like small, medium, large. But no, I think Evans has played really well, and but correct me if I'm wrong. Caleb Evans is the guy that Kevin O'Connell or Kwesi, one of them, said like he was scouting a wide receiver, and Caleb Evans jumped out at him, and so they said, "Oh, we're gonna take this guy," and kind of ended up taking Caleb Evans because they had a super high grade on him, but they didn't want to reach for him. I think the coaching staff thinks very highly of him. I think he, based on his social media presence, is probably a very nice locker room presence. I feel like he gets along with people pretty nicely. And I think that the coaching staff gave him a huge vote of confidence by releasing Harrison Hand this week. Harrison Hand is somebody who has been established a little bit as a rotational, backup defensive back for the Vikings over the last couple of seasons. I know a lot of people really like Harrison Hand. They think, he is something, there's something more that could be developed out of him. And unfortunately the Vikings, got rid of him today. I think to free up a spot for Caleb Evans, because I do think that, one, the coaching staff is not naive to Andrew Booth's injury woes, and I think they think a Caleb Evans can give them similar levels of production if they need to step into those roles. I'm a huge Caleb Evans fan. Like you, I don't think he's an elite defensive back, but I'm just a fan of his because he's a good defensive back, and I'm not going to worry about him getting booed at US Bank and, waving the people on and, talking about, what was it? What did Bashad Boulan say? Like a Johnson in his mouth?
Not repeatable.
Yeah. Like so it is. He censored himself very well, but like, man, that was not G-rated content. So, I have very high hopes for Caleb Evans and his future. Let's talk about the wide receivers. Who do you think has no chance of making this team at this point? Albert Wilson, no longer a Viking. He was a guy who I thought maybe was going to contend over BC Johnson because of his return ability. Doesn't look like that's the case. I still don't think we know what we're doing at punt returner. I'm assuming it is going to be one of the wide receivers. I'm just gonna stop talking and let you talk about the wide receivers for a little bit because there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, quickly on the punt returner piece, I'm a little bit nervous about that. I don't know if I just forgot about this, but why isn't Nay Wongwu taking punt returns? Like, is he just not interested, or I don't know. That's a whole nother topic. But I mean, it seems to me that he should be getting reps back there. On the wide receivers, I don't think Myron Mitchell's making the team. I have not seen enough from him in A camp and B the preseason games to give me any semblance of hope that he'll make the team. And also, let's just be frank here. We have, if I remember right, 10 wide receivers left on the roster. And one of them, Blake Priel, is on the, I think, the PUP list, so he doesn't really count towards the 53. But so let's just call it 9. We're probably only going to keep, maybe 6, 7 max if Dan Chisna, just stays on the roster for special teams. So a couple guys have to go. That's just the way that it is. I think we have a talented wide receiver room, and the guys that get cut will probably get a chance someplace else. So I think Myron Mitchell probably misses the cut. At this point, I think Jalen Naylor misses the cut. I have not seen enough from him. Now, granted, there's a whole big caveat here that needs to be stated. The quarterback play has been so subpar that in these actual preseason games, I don't know how much you can actually glean. For example, Mond threw 2 balls to Naylor, one that was intercepted, one that was incomplete in a double coverage where Naylor was targeted, but he wasn't really open. Maybe a better throw throws him open, but that's a whole nother thing. So it's really hard to glean how well the wide receivers are playing from these games, given how poor the quarterback play has been. But I think the odd 2 guys out have to be Naylor and Mitchell at this point. I think Tristan Jackson has done enough. I think BC Johnson has done more than enough. I've been actually very pleasantly surprised by him. I thought he's made some plays. He has been very active. The quarterbacks seem to really like him. The coaching staff seems to like him. So that's kind of my odd men out at this point. Who do you see as the punt returner after the debacle on Saturday with the fumble and I don't know. I mean, it's not the worst special teams we've ever seen, but it's definitely not the best.
So you asking me, who do I think is going to be, or who would I put back there? Because I would also put Kine Wongwu back there to atone the punts for this team. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing with this position? BC? Is it BC? I mean, he has some experience, but didn't he have oh man, I don't know. I really I wish I had Ansos. I think Chad Beebe just got cut. We could try and bring him back to do it. And he could fumble us into a
Carolina
win.
Again?
Yep. Yeah, he could fumble us right into a win against Carolina. That's what I'm saying. I really, the punt returning position is one that I think in total it could cost you 1 game. And that could be huge. That could be Green Bay week 1. And that ends up mattering in a tiebreaker down the road. I'm not saying that 1 game. There's only 17 of them. If you lose 1 game because of a punt returner, that's 1 too many. I think at this point, it's ISM or it's BC. I agree with you. I was hoping Jalen Naylor would get the stickum out and start catching punts. And I don't know if he is super focused on developing himself as a route runner and becoming an NFL wide receiver so that he can be the next Stephon Diggs, the next, Adam Thielen, the Vikings late round or undrafted success story that rises up and becomes an all-pro. I don't know if that's what he's focused on, but right now, buddy, you need to focus on getting a job because that receiver room is deep and you don't stand out in it. And like you said, the quarterback play hasn't been great, and a wide receiver's only as good as his quarterback can be. But has Jalen Naylor taken a lot of practice reps with Cousins? Because if he hasn't, then I don't think that I don't know. I don't think that Mond and Mannion are going to give you the best look with the 2s and the 3s to see what you have with these wide receivers. And I just think that I agree with you. I think Naylor's on his way out. I know, I think it was last week, I might have speculated a little bit too much about BC Johnson standing with the team and what he was going to be and where he was going to be. BC Johnson, and again, I took notes as things happened. So this was not like I watched the game and then I went back in a different state of mind. I wrote down the note of BC Johnson's got that dog in him, because it was like he was getting in people's faces. He got held, still made a catch, and then was screaming at the DB. And I'm like, BC, this is a preseason game. Like, chill. I mean, don't actually, because I love it. But like, BC Johnson, I think he's pissed. This is me speculating. I don't know BC Johnson. I think he's pissed that he blew his knee out and KJ Osborne had such a good year. BC Johnson's a wide receiver 4 now instead of a wide receiver 3 on a team where Adam Thielen is getting close to that age out range. Well, I mean, you're talking about being a wide receiver 2 for a pretty good historical wide receiver franchise. And I think BC's mad. I think he is going to show up this season. I think BC Johnson's going to be a bigger part of the Vikings offense than people think, especially if Adam Thielen continues on this, missing a month's worth of football throughout the season trajectory that he's kind of been on, which I hope that he doesn't miss any football. But there's a chance that he does, and he's getting a little older. And if he does, KJ moves up, ISM moves up, BC moves up. Now all of a sudden, BC and ISM are going to be splitting snaps, and I'm excited to see what BC does. I hope that we get to see him some on the field this year. You wrote down here, and this is we've cast a broad net here. Defensive surprises from the preseason game. I'm gonna combo this a little bit. So who's a defensive surprise that you had last week? Also, who's somebody you think is gonna stand out in this Week 3 game against Russell Wilson and the Let's Ride Broncos?
Well, first of all, I hope for Russell's sake he doesn't play.
Yeah.
let's just hope he just.
Especially not if T.Y. McGill is in now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You buried the lead there. So T.Y. McGill was my surprise for the second week in a row. I mean, I had never heard of the guy. The first game against Las Vegas, he comes out with 2 sacks, and I'm kind of like, it's weak. It's a preseason game. Who cares? He does it again in the next preseason game, again against backups, all that stuff. But he's a veteran. He's been around the league. I think PA's been mentioning on the broadcast he's been on 8 or so different teams or something crazy like that. And so he's been around. He's seen everything, and he is working his tail off to make this team. And I think that's something where you mentioned Jalen Twyman last week, and I'd like to see a little more dog out of him. I think something that, and all the reports on Jalen Twyman, everybody loves him. He's a great locker room guy. He's a great teammate. He works hard, but I'd like to see a little more fire out of him, like I see out of T.Y. McGill. I mean, he's got 3.5 sacks. And he had another tackle for loss, another quarterback hit last week. He's all over the field. And Harrison Phillips is going to need a couple snaps off here and there. And I think T.Y. McGill deserves every chance in the world to be that guy.
Do you know who T.Y. McGill reminds me of a lot? And I think it's because he's a veteran and he's kind of a pass rushing defense, or like he's a big O pass rusher. Tom Johnson from like the 2017 season was such a niche part of that defense. But I think T.Y. McGill fits that mold. I mean, like chef's kiss perfectly, because he's a veteran. He's bounced around, but he lands here and we're like, hey, we're not really going to ask you to stop the run all that much. Go get the quarterback. And he's kind of taking advantage of that. I like T.Y. McGill a lot.
Yeah. I think the guy who I would be looking for more of, that I've seen a little bit of, not quite to the same level of T.Y. McGill for this third game, the one that I'm looking for a little more of is Patrick Jones. I think I pointed him out to you maybe last week and the week before. I saw him make a couple sneaky good plays. I think he maybe had half a sack last week. You've kind of been, banging on the door for more pass rush support for Za'Darius and Daniil. He could potentially be it. I think it's a little bit, we kind of think we're going to look to like DJ Wanham, for example, or Armon Watts, some of those guys who have been around. But Patrick Jones might be that guy, and I think I'd like to see a little more from him in week 3. You pointed out the Oklahoma rookie. I want you to talk about him and what you saw from him last week.
Yeah, and honestly, it wasn't one specific play. So it's Brian Asamoah, right? The rookie linebacker out of Oklahoma. I was very excited when we drafted him. I have a thing for like undersized linebackers who, are very quick and very fast. I pounded the table until Nakobe Dean got taken. I was like, the Vikings need to take him. The Vikings need to take him. And the Eagles ended up getting away with him as he had like a historic slide. But Brian Asamoah, you watch him play, and if you don't know what number he's wearing, then you just see the same number keep going from point A to point B in the blink of an eye, and you think, who is this? Like, who is this guy who is just, bang, bang. His speed is what really stands out to me. It's something that I think is it's what the new NFL is. It's not these, Brian Urlacher, Chad Greenway, slow but powerful linebackers. It's Brian Asamoah and Eric Kendricks, who are smaller. They're going to be great in pass coverage. And then whenever they do need to get to a running back, if a running back bounces outside, Brian Asamoah is just as fast as that running back is. I'd put my money on it. He's getting to that running back, and he's cutting the angle off, and he's making a play on the ball. So Brian Asamoah, I think, is going to continue to stand out. I don't think he will, hopefully, see significant playing time this season unless Hicks or Kendricks misses time. But I think he is the future of the Vikings linebacking room. I think him and Kendricks will have a year or two there where they will arguably be one of the top 5 linebacking duos in the league. And I'm really excited about it. Like, whenever that day comes, I'm really excited. I just hope I hope Asamoah does not get his chance when Kendricks is already sort of over the moon and on the downswing of his career, because I think Kendricks is poised for he's Eric Kendricks. I think he's going to have another really good season, and I think he's got a couple years left in the tank. So, Asamoah just stood out. You kind of took my who I want to see stand out in this week's game, but you know what? Let's just throw some names out there on the defensive side of the ball that you kind of already brought up. I want to see Jalen Twyman, like you said. You sort of gave him a mini call out there. I want to see this kid who was the best Pitt defensive tackle since Aaron Donald went there. I was hyped when we drafted him. He's wearing John Randall's 93. I want to see him, like you said, I think you put it perfectly. I want to see more dog in him. I want to see him get out there, be nasty, get physical, penetrate double teams, and get home to the quarterback or blow up a few run plays, because my expectations for him, it's like whenever anyone wears 84 on the Vikings as a wide receiver or tight end, the expectation's high because you chose that number. And now that is what the expectation is. You better be an emulation of Randy Moss, and I know you're not going to be him, but you better be good. And with him wearing 90, with Twyman wearing 93, it's like, I didn't watch a lot of John Randall because I'm young. You better, I know John Randall. I've seen the highlights. I've heard him, heard his smack talk, heard him tell people their wife's phone number. Like, he was a madman. And so I want to see Jalen Twyman get possessed by the ghost of John Randall, who is still alive, thank God. But I want to see him play like a madman and just go berserk on an offensive line this week against Denver and make some plays, because I think I said on our first show together, or maybe, I can't remember what it was. I've said earlier in the offseason, at one point, it was discussed the Vikings signing Ndamukong Suh, and I was like, I don't want him. We got Jalen Twyman. I want to see what this kid can do, and he hasn't really shown me what he can do at a level that I would find sufficient. So, moving into the running back room. Actually, hang on. I'm going to pass it back to you really quick because I saw that you messaged me in Discord and I can't click on it right now.
Yeah. I was just going to say, why don't we don't we take our final thoughts here? You can comment on the running back room if you want. Otherwise, feel free to comment on anything that you're looking for in this
Absolutely.
last week of preseason prep, and then I can close this down.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry. I should have told you. I heard the Discord thing and I was like, who's messaging me? But yeah. So at the running back room, I'll just say one thing, and it is word for word what is typed in front of me here. Running back room is loaded, and that's another thing that I saw in that game. Trade Alexander Madison. I know he's good. I understand that, but trade him before he just walks for nothing. Maybe a compensatory pick. Trade the man. Trade him, get something in return. I really don't understand. I guess, don't trade him for nothing, but I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm really excited for this game on Sunday. I don't know on Saturday, excuse me, sort of a later game for me. It's going to be at 9 o'clock, but I plan on staying up and watching it. I have my fantasy draft on Sunday for the league that I'm defending champion in, so a lot of pressure there. I think the main thing that I'm going to end on here is just I don't know how many starters are going to be playing on the offense, but I do think that I don't think Cousins is going to play. I think this is Kellen Mond's last chance to prove that he should be QB3 at this. This is his last chance to maybe make a push this year to have a job next year. And I'm sure that he might bounce around some practice squads and things like that. I think the pressure's really on for Kellen Mond. It can't be easy. You have a head coach that doesn't like you and doesn't want you, and then your new head coach watches you play 2 preseason games and says, we're going to trade and get a new guy in here. So, Kellen Mond, it's time for you to step up, respond to the adversity. This is a call to action from Jordan Hawthorne of Load the Box Vikings. I want to see Kellen Mond play well. I root for the guy. I think he's a good guy. And I guess we'll see Saturday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Make sure to follow the show at LTB Vikings. Follow Will at Will Bad Lose. Check out the Bad Loser blog. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's important. Sub to the YouTube channel. Other than that, I think that's all I have. We'll be back next week at 7:30 again.
Great. Thanks, Jordan. Last thing that I have, sort of a niche take, but I think a very important take, is what I'm looking for in the final preseason game is the punter position. One of the underrated position battles in camp. Jordan Berry, the incumbent against Ryan Wright, the undrafted rookie out of Tulane. I watched them both in practice. They both had their moments. I think Ryan Wright booted about a 60-yard punt or something like that. He had a couple nice kicks on Saturday against the Niners. I mean, they both got a ton of chances because their offense couldn't do anything. But I think where I sit on this, and my hope, quite frankly, and this is nothing against Ryan Wright, is that I hope that Berry wins the job. Because I think something that is often undercovered and underappreciated is the job of the holder in the kicking game. And I think having Berry and Greg Joseph, they already have a year together. I'd like to see some continuity there. I also saw in the practices that I went to last week, the only kicks that Greg Joseph missed were held by Wright. Could be a coincidence, might not be. When Berry was holding, he made every kick. So I think there's something there. I'd like to see some continuity, some consistency in the holding and the kicking game. So, because as we know, kicking is vitally important for every NFL team, but especially for the Minnesota Vikings and their miserable fans.
Absolutely.
So this is Will Badlose signing off for Load the Box for Jordan Hawthorne. We will see you next week at 7:30, and don't forget, goal as always.